Hi everyone, you're listening to the Bridgeway podcast. The purpose of these podcasts is to give us the opportunity to share information and thoughts with you and to inspire all of you who work at Bridgeway. As ever, we'd love to hear from you, so if you've got any feedback, please get in touch.
Hi everyone, welcome to our latest Bridgeway podcast, which is all about women's menstrual health. I'm really pleased today to be joined by Roya Rasuli, founder of women's clothing brand Femwear and advocate for women's health. Thanks for joining me today, Roya. How are you?
Hi Lisa, I am good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. We've had an interesting morning together, haven't we? You've delivered a session for us on women's health.
Yes, it was very interesting and a privilege to be here.
Thank you for doing that. So before we get into talking about that topic, so how did you come to know Bridgeway?
I actually totally by accident met Pino at a King's Trust event that I was invited to speak at for Christmas, and Pino arrived at the event and we started chatting, and then we realized we actually sitting next to each other, so continued our chat. He told me about all his entrepreneurial journey, gave me his word of wisdom and amazing advice and a nice chat, and I told him about what I do, and he was very interested and compassionate, and he told me about I know a really dear friend and someone who works with me as well that has got endometriosis, and it's amazing to hear your story. And ever since, the relationship have grown in a way that brought us here today.
Yes, he put you in touch with me, didn't he?
Yeah.
So before we get into talking about this, I just want to caveat it for all our listeners and say that we're speaking from personal experience, aren't we? None of us are any experts by any means, or doctors or anything like that. But I know you, Roy, have done a lot of research into it. I've been asking you questions all morning about these things, so I know you've done a lot of research, you know a lot around it. So let's start with the big question then. Why is menstrual health such a taboo subject, given half the population experience it? Why do you think that is?
I do feel it's two reasons. One is the women don't talk about it enough. Second is, as the result of us never talked about it enough, never advocated for it enough, there wasn't policies and enough educations put in place. And that's not to blame women. It's a shared responsibility. It's we have to listen to each other, and the healthcare system needed to be developed in a way that doesn't dismiss any menstrual health difficulties and just call it a bad period, and should have basically been built into our education system. It's a biological process, and we should be aware of it from an early age, but sadly we're not. And on top of that is all cultural taboos and stigmas and all the old beliefs that is still among us, is keeping a large gap between us, our friends, our colleagues, and sometimes even our medical professionals, that we feel embarrassed to ask some certain questions which we shouldn't.
I think it's important to know as well that everybody's journey is different, isn't it? And just if you're someone that doesn't suffer from anything like this, it's easy to just look at someone else and think, oh, just get on with it. So I think it's being talked about more now. Whether that's because I'm more aware of it, I'm not sure. But I think definitely over the last few years, I've seen it more in the media and that kind of thing. So that's all really good. But we're conditioned to just push through it, aren't we, as women? It's just kind of like, get on with it, suffer in silence. But there's so many menstrual disorders that go undiagnosed. So we've got things like endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, fibroids, PMDD. I'm sure I've missed some. I'm talking about another one, this adenomyosis.
Yes.
And they're not even part of the conversation, are they, sometimes? So You've obviously had your own personal journey with endometriosis. Could you share that with us?
Yes, I started my period when I was 11, and it was so painful, so horrific, scary experience, because obviously I didn't know anything about it, and it was a fully unknown. And once I raised the question that why am I so much in pain, it hurts a lot. They were like, oh, it's the first couple of years. And then after, when I turned 14, the pain keep getting worse than improving, to a stage I used to faint in school, and I was told that I'm trying to miss exams, or I'm trying to seek people's attention or be a drama queen, which all of these continuously resulted in me going more into hospital, more speaking with doctors, and they were all telling me it's just a bad period. Periods are painful, but yours is more painful than normal.
So suck it up and get on with it, basically.
Just suck it up and get on with it. This is the reality, this is what it is to be women. And to a point that at 15 I was putting on contraceptive pills, because they said, okay, if period is that much of a problem, let's get rid of it. But still the pain was there, still I would bleed on those pills. And they trialed and error at least 10 different brands of pills. And to that point, the pain translated into my almost half of the month, not just 1 week.
Yeah.
And then all the scans, MRI, blood tests, everything was clear. So slowly was the question of, is it in my head? Am I really making this up? Was coming up in conversations.
Did you ever think that yourself? I mean, it's something that people say to you, isn't it? Like, oh, you must be making it up. Did you ever get to a point you think maybe it is in my head, or,
1 year before diagnosis,
Yeah.
I feel I hit rock bottom, to a point that I was broken into tears in front of one of my friends, and I told her, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm in A&E every single week. I get sent home with paracetamol. The maximum they do is giving me an IV drip, send me home. I can't live like this.
Yeah.
I could not walk properly to toilet without excruciating pain, stopping multiple times, until my friend was like, Roya, this is not a normal life, and even though your normal gynecologist say it's normal, I don't think this is normal. I said, I know, but maybe it's literally me, that is me thinking like that.
Yeah.
Until she said, actually, I have a friend that she have a condition, looks so similar to what you're expressing, but I'm not sure, I can't obviously diagnose you, you have to tell your doctor. And luckily, I had a doctor appointment the week after, and a gynecologist appointment the week after. So she said, it's called endometriosis. And I said, what? Like, it just was all butterflies around my head. I said, I don't understand. Can you write it? So I gave her a piece of pen and paper. She wrote it. And I was so terrified of this word that I can't even pronounce it. I didn't search it on Google for a week. The name was there. Didn't want to look at it. I was already terrified for 10 years of my life. That what's wrong with it? Am I dying of a disease that I don't have a name? Someone is missing? But what is happening to me? Until I took that piece of paper to my doctor, and he said, no, you don't have this. I said, how can you be so sure? He said, you was on progesterone only pill, and for endometriosis, progesterone only pills improve the pain, but for you it didn't, means you don't have it. I said, how can you be so sure about it? He said, we have to cut you open and look at it. This is the only way to find out, is proper surgery. I said, I'm not having that. So I said goodbye. I left the clinic, came back home. I was admitted to hospital again 2 days later. Ambulance came to take me to hospital. I was so unwell. And then I called crying to secretary. I said, I take the surgery.
Yeah.
So 1 week later, I was taken to surgery, and I was told it was endometriosis.
I don't think many people know that endometriosis doesn't show up on scans and things, does it, very easily? And it is something that literally is just something that's diagnosed via a laparoscopy. So some people, like you say, it's a scary thing to have a procedure, but actually in some instances it's the only way that you're going to find out that you do have it.
Yeah, I totally understand. Especially for me, I was so body conscious.
Yeah.
And I definitely didn't want a scar. I remember at one point I had a really bad cyst when I was a teenager, and they told me if the cyst gets any larger, we have to do operation to remove that cyst, that ovarian cyst. And I was terrified of a scar on my belly, but like now I show off my belly.
Yeah.
The scars, pictures is all over. It's like, it's all these thoughts that you have that literally you feel having a surgery is the worst case scenario, but for me was probably life-saving, because if I wouldn't say to that laparoscopic surgery, I would have, endometriosis potentially would have gone into different organs,
Yeah.
and it would have been too late maybe.
So how did you feel after you had the surgery done?
As soon as I woke up from the recovery, I was obviously so high from all these drugs they give you to put you asleep. I told them, please tell me, did I had it? And there was 2 nurses on top of me. Go back to sleep, darling. I said, just tell me, did I had it? They were like, if I tell you, you wouldn't remember it tomorrow. I said, I remember it like a daylight. This is an important moment of my life. And she said, you had it. It was endometriosis. And I just cried.
Yeah.
I cried and I said, I knew it, because it cannot be real to live like that. And on that recovery bed, I vowed that I do anything to change this fact for the future generation. Because why should I and 200 other million women worldwide go through this in 21st century, being misdiagnosed for at least 10 years, then get diagnosis while we're thinking about walking on the moon? Why? Why do we have to bear this much pain? Why do we have to be in this situation?
So it's such a really, I mean, I've been through a similar procedure, same laparoscopy, and when you wake up and you're told that's what it is a relief, isn't it? Because you think it's not in my head, it was something that was there. But it does come back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I didn't realise that it can come back, and then you feel like, am I going to be back to square one? How was that for you?
Well, for me, it was a very bumpy road, because my surgeon just discharged me. He never saw me a follow-up after my surgery. He said, we put a coil, you should be fine. You don't need any follow-up.
Yeah.
And I was like, probably it's gone, like you say, until I came home, felt better, and I dig deep, and I researched, and I was like, oh my God, this has no cure. And it's a good thing that just before my surgery, I actually searched to see what's the difference between ablation surgery and excision surgery. And you should have excision, not ablation, because it will come back. Rather, like, they would burn the disease rather than take out the disease. So I had excision, which takes out the disease. But literally my surgery was half an hour, so there is no way in half an hour a surgeon could find the disease, treat it, clean up, so you have a relief for years after it. But for me, I was in A&E 3 weeks after surgery again, with more pain, very severe pain. 1 month later, I felt like I'm in labor.
Yeah.
So the pain was keep getting worse and worse because I wasn't treated. Until then, I was referred to an endometriosis specialist, because on NHS, you first must see a gynecologist, and then if you have a confirmed diagnosis, whether that's with a laparoscopy or within an ultrasound, then they can refer you to an endometriosis specialist. For me, it felt is this really life gonna be? It felt so scary.
Yeah.
And if I go back, I tell myself that you will learn to ride the waves and you will learn to live with it. You will find a way. It was terrifying, but I found speaking about it extremely soothing and healing for me, that I felt not alone, because after speaking about it, I found other women had it. But up until that point, I felt so alien. I felt so alone. I remember I woke up from my surgery and I thought, before my surgery, I felt the only person I know with this much pain. And now I'm the only person with this much pain and the only person with an incurable condition that I can't even pronounce. So it was so scary, but I put a big reason in front of me and I said, you know what, this is bigger than me. It's not about me. I can't be quiet. I have to speak up about it.
And it's something that you're very passionate about, isn't it? And it's obviously driven you to set up your own business, and you're an advocate for women's menstrual health. You've delivered a session for us this morning to our wellbeing champions, and they brought other colleagues with them. What key messages would you give to people listening out there now that might be suffering, they might have a partner that's suffering from endometriosis or a similar condition? What message would you give them?
I say that period is not your fault. It's not a burden. It's not a dark cloud on your life. I know if you experience pain, it's so difficult to think otherwise, because all you think is period is my horror story of my life because it's so painful. But the reality is that it's a biological process, but the only issue is you shouldn't be in pain. And if you are in pain, you must seek help. If your loved one is in pain, she or them, they're not brave enough to seek help. You need to help them to advocate for themselves. Go with them to medical appointment. It's sad to say that when I go to medical appointment alone, I don't get taken seriously as much as I taken seriously when I'm with someone else. It feels very weird, but sadly, this is how it works sometimes. And a lot of other women, I know that they say, we definitely take one person with us when we go to the appointment, because sometimes I've broken into tears. I can't speak, but the person you take with you can speak and say, actually, it's really affecting her life. Can we look into it?
That's exactly what my husband did for me.
Wow.
He went to that appointment with me. I'd had various appointments up to that point, but he very much spoke for me and said, this isn't normal, what she's going through. And I think I almost got to a point where you just, it becomes your normal, doesn't it? That's just the way you are, you're just getting on with it. And not until somebody else says, well, you know, this isn't normal for you, something's not right. And he was saying all this to the specialist. And that was at the point that I got my laparoscopy booked in. So taking somebody to the appointment, I definitely agree with that.
You wouldn't see it yourself when you are there. Like you said, we tend to get on with it because we are unbelievably resilient women. Period pain is no joke. I know women that they have endometriosis and they have actually given birth naturally, and they say, based on what they said, is that endometriosis flare-up is more painful than labor. And it's so unbelievable to see these women glide through life with this much pain. And sometimes the first time you go to that GP appointment, you get turned out. Second time you go, you turn out. You must knock on the door. We live in a world that no one will show up in your front door and say, please, take care of you, take you to a hospital, show you to a specialist. You're the only one can advocate for yourself, and you're the only one who can save you from the situation that you feel you're in. If your pain is not reduced by a painkiller, the edge is not, it hasn't taken the edge off a painkiller, you must seek help.
Yeah, keep pushing, don't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Femwear, your business that obviously it was inspired by all of this journey, wasn't it?
Yes. So after I found out I have endometriosis, I actually became more aware of a lot of symptoms that I would get but previously ignored. One of the big symptoms and big challenges for me was wearing clothes every day. And as a fashion designer, I was like, oh my goodness, I struggle in front of my wardrobe every single day to pick what clothes can I wear today, because my body was continuously changing. I had 3 different sizes of clothes in my wardrobe. Sometimes I would take an extra pair of trousers when I would go out, because when I would suddenly bloat. So for the contest, every woman blows throughout their menstrual cycle, through their luteal phase the 1 week before their period. But if you have endometriosis, you tend to bloat 2 to 3 sizes, which every single clothes in your wardrobe has not been designed to allow you to bloat this much. So that's why the clothes used to dig in. I couldn't hold conversation without thinking about that button that is pushing on my belly button, or thinking about that the edge of my jeans is like cutting through my side hips, like the side of my body.
Yeah.
And it was feeling so irritable, or I had to keep pulling my crotch of my trousers down because it was going up, like really making me uncomfortable. And I found myself unzip and unbutton my trousers after meals, and I was like, oh God, like I don't feel comfortable and confident in my clothes as a fashion designer. What other women must be through. So I studied women's body, of how our body changes throughout our different menstrual cycles, and I realized that everyone changes, but we changes more. So I brought and I made clothes that adapt to those changes. So I tested 30 different legging designs and 35 fabrics to find the perfect sweet spot, that one legging supports 3 size changes, that doesn't dig in no matter how much you bloat. You inflate, they inflate, you deflate, they deflate. This is what I say. And obviously I wanted to have a clothing brand, but I saw the lack of community, uplifting community in endometriosis and in menstrual well-being in general. So I started hosting free wellness events, like just painting, having a chat over a cup of coffee. I felt there was a massive gap between finding an uplifting community saying, we got this condition, the period is painful, life is hard, but what are we going to talk about it? So I started Femwear, which is then, this is how I found out I wanted to seek support on how to start a business, learn how to start a business, because you would assume it's a terrifying route to take from full-time job coming directly into building your own business with no background. So I turned to King's Trust to learn more about how to start my business. So that way it led me to Bridgeway.
And he took off from there. And we've tried your leggings on this morning, myself and Kelly and the people team. We love them.
Amazing.
So yeah, if anyone's listening, definitely have a look at those. So I suppose the message is that we need to keep talking openly about it, don't we? That's what you're kind of advocating, and don't take no for an answer. That's the key sort of takeaway for me, is that I think we know our bodies, don't we? But we tend to just listen to the professionals, and sometimes you've got to just keep pushing, because it can be, just get on with it. Actually, don't take that no for an answer. Go again and have the appointment again, and ask more questions, do your own research. So some tangible things that we're doing at Bridgeway, and we spoke about these this morning. So we're launching our menstrual health support policy. We're ensuring that all our toilets and welfare vans have free and easy access to period products, as well as a means of disposing them. And we've given the option for all our female employees to be given a radar key for them to access the toilets when they're on site. It's not an easy thing to deal with when you're in the middle of nowhere. So we've given all our female employees the option of having one of those. So I think the main thing for me is just to keep the conversation going, not just today, but continuously. So for all the ladies out there, please speak up. And for the men that may be listening, ask questions. Make sure you understand what's going on. And it's not a taboo subject. It should be part and parcel of who we are. So thank you, Roya, for inspiring us and sharing your story today. I've learnt so much. You know, I've been firing questions all morning at you, haven't I? And I suppose last bit of advice for anybody listening, what would you give?
Apart from advocating yourself, I do hope that you get some answers, and you will find the right treatment and care plan for you with your healthcare professional. But it's about, don't be hard so much on yourself. I know that finding out that you got diagnosed with a condition, and I know that living in pain is not easy, but you cannot give up on yourself or think that this is destination of your life. There are so many ways that you can support yourself, and explain to people around you that how can they support you.
Yeah.
Because there are often very supportive people around you, but they have no idea what you want, what you need, and how can they take that, give you an extra hand to navigate this life.
Yeah.
So just be brave and ask for help, and nothing is wrong with that. Nothing is wrong with asking for help.
Yeah.
And advocating for yourself.
Thank you. So, as always, for anybody that might be listening and suffering silence, please reach out to us, whether that be me directly, the people team, or the Wellbeing Champions. And just as a final special thank you to Roya for coming in, spending some time with us today. We'll put the link to your website on when we publish the podcast. So thanks everyone for listening.
Amazing. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Roya.
having me.